let's be honest, it's relatively easy to draft a best ball team. You go 18 rounds, you get some stacks, you have a decent construction, you grab some rookies, you call it a day. But how about drafting with a weighted vest on or drafting with one hand behind your back? That's what I'm going to do today with another draft challenge video. But instead of having a specific challenge, I have loaded various challenges onto a wheel and I'm going to spin the wheel twice and draft a team adhering within the rules of those two specific challenges. I'm Pete Overzet. This is the Deposit Kingdom YouTube channel, and we are about to do the unthinkable and draft a team based on the whims of a randomizer wheel. All right, first off, I am going to hop in a draft, and then we will spin the wheel, joining a Best Ball Mania draft. While we wait for these four people, we will figure out what our challenges are going to be. Challenge number one. Please be nice to me, Wheel. Please be nice to me. Oh, God. Seriously? Robust RB video. Draft three workhorse running backs. At least with workhorse running backs, I have a little flexibility, right? I can tell myself that Joe Mixon is a workhorse back for the Texans. I think I can tell myself that, but this is not fun. All right, draft three workhorse running backs, and let's see what else I'm going to be doing. I hate this already. Okay. And an onslaught. So these are our two. The second one, onslaught, take five players from the same team. So at the very least, I need to do two things in this draft. Draft three workhorse running backs, which is going to mean I'm going to need to take probably three running backs through the first 5 rounds. And on top of that, I'm going to need to onslaught one specific team. You might be saying, Pete, didn't you come up with these prompts yourself? Shouldn't you have thought about the definition? I will be honest. So, one of my producers, Buck, who has been working with me on these draft challenge videos, he came up with these challenges. And instead of, clarifying with him what his intent was, I just immediately hopped into the draft. So that's how that's how this is going to go. So we drew the 1-5. The 1-5, I think, is a decent spot, right? Because it means we're going to pick at 5 and 20. I should be able to get one of Bijan or Brees at 5, and then at least Kyron at 20. Kyron's been kind of falling in some of these drafts, so I think that's my ideal start. If we could get one of these guys in the fourth, see, I would love to be able to get a wide receiver at 29. I think that might be the play. I think I might just take a wide receiver at 29 regardless, because at worst case scenario, I have to reach for like a Pacheco at 44. But if I think about 44 and 53, Pacheco at 46 has an ADP of 46. So yeah, he should be able to be there for me at 44. Otherwise, I could take Mixon at 53. I think that's the play. I think that's the play. We take two running backs to start, hopefully get a wide receiver, and then see what we need to do at 44 or 53. And then with this, I am most likely going to have a hyper fragile build, where I probably only have four running backs total. There's some conspiracy theorists, truthers out there who say when I record these draft challenge videos that I'm recording a ton of them. And just until I get a good one that I like, then that's what I release. I'm here to tell you, I do not have that much time. And I'm legitimately upset that another robust RB challenge popped up after I did a robust RB challenge during the big board drafts a month or so back. So here is living proof that I'm not rigging this. Bijan Robinson falls to me at 1-5. So here we go. Anyone in this room who knows me is going to be like, wait, Pete just took Bijan Robinson over Justin Jefferson. What happened to him? But we have a challenge to complete. When I did the very first robust RB challenge, and again, this was during the big board, so this was before the NFL draft. I did a draft on my live stream channel, which you guys should all be subscribed to. I do best ball breakfast there, draft best ball mania teams on Monday mornings. I do a solo draft. I do one with Pat Carrain, the BBM3 champ. I do one with the very sharp Sean Siegel over at RotoViz. And in one of those drafts on Monday morning, Kyron fell to pick 30. So I'm very much in on Kyron in the third. I think at that price, it's well worth it. I think this feels good. Um, the last time I felt like I was having to reach, we look at ADP right now. I take Kyron at pick 20, his ADP is 20.7. I take Bijan at pick 5, his ADP is 6.9. So two workhorse backs secured. I'm noticing I might have another competitor here for these early running backs. Out of the two hole, NY Mafia started CMC, Derrick Henry, Travis Etienne. Um, this is at least he's behind me here, right? So we know at 44, I'm most likely going to need to grab my other running back because this guy has already taken 3. Who knows? Maybe he goes 4. But this works out pretty well. We started with Bijan, Kyron. I'm deciding between some wide receivers right now. By ADP, it's Diggs. By rank, it's Diggs. There's also Neighbors and Waddle. I'm thinking through a little bit onslaught stuff, honestly. Um, which teams would it be easier to land an onslaught for? But I am going to go ahead and just grab Stephon Diggs here. When we talk about, all right, what's the utility of doing these draft challenges? Partly is just because it's fun. But I do think there is a valuable element to it in that when you push outside your comfort zone, you get more comfortable with other types of builds, which allows you to draft more diversified teams, not from a player standpoint specifically, although that's a bonus too, but from getting on different structures that you wouldn't otherwise get to. And I love this idea of drafting players that you wouldn't otherwise take within structures that you like, or vice versa. So, maybe the people who traditionally do hyper fragile teams, they're not often taking a ton of rookies, just like the general profiles of those two types of drafters. So, what if I have this hyper fragile team where I also take a lot of rookies, knowing most of the people who chase all these rookies are doing zero RB, doing anchor RB? That could be a uniqueness element. And so, I like this idea of constricting yourself. While it's fun to have these challenges, I do think there's an actual benefit because of the autopilot element of drafting. And it's really easy to do the same things over and over again and not really benefit your overall portfolio when you do that. And I should also say, I put 8 or 9 prompts on the wheel for this one. I'd love to add more to it. So if you guys have any challenges you think would be good to add, leave them in the comments down below. And if there's any good ones, I will be sure to add them. I'm trying to steer away from the super gimmicky ones, right? Like I want them to be ones that can lend themselves to strategy, onslaughts, early running backs. I think that is going to lead to interesting conversations for how to construct a good team within these confines. So Josh Jacobs does fall here to 37, which is pretty interesting. And I'm now left wondering, should I take Josh Jacobs here at 37 as the ADP faller, or should I grab a wide receiver here and then just grab Pacheco? What's interesting is there's no wide receivers here I really love. So I do think I take Josh Jacobs and then I am done. I'll probably take one more running back super late. I do really like these exercises. And as gross as it is for me to take, Bijan, Kyron, and Josh Jacobs, I'm excited to see how we can make this work. I am going to be taking a wide receiver here, though. As much as I love elite tight end this year, I just do not think I can emerge from round 5 with only one wide receiver. And Christian Kirk, who I like a lot, is available here. I'm going to take Christian Kirk, but I needed to draft 3 workhorse running backs per the first prompt, which I've done: Bijan, Kyron, Josh Jacobs. The other prompt I still have to accomplish is 5 players from a single team. So an onslaught. And I do not have a single team yet that is represented more than once. So I need to start thinking through some of the candidates. I guess Pitts. I guess, yeah, maybe you could do something like Pitts, Cousins, Algier, Mooney. Although, man, taking both Bijan and Algier doesn't feel great. I guess it would have to be like Rondell Moore late. Green Bay could be one. You got Jaden Reed. Maybe I should have taken him over Christian Kirk just to start stacking more Green Bay players. There's obviously Watson, Love, Dobbs, Wicks, Lloyd, Musgrave, Kraft. So Green Bay, I'm filing that one away right now. That's a potential team to get me to 5 total players. Houston's going to be too tough at this point. All of their top players are off the board. It's just Schultz, Damian Pierce, Noah Brown. There's no way I'm getting to 5 there. Jacksonville, Brian Thomas, Evan Ingram. I would have to kind of grab those 2 at these next 2 picks, 68 and 77. I think that's possible. Then you would get Trevor Lawrence, Gabe Davis. It does get a little harder with the deep picks. I really am having to think through this onslaught thing because if I'm not careful, I will have to draft a pretty suboptimal team. Like I want to keep as many options for this onslaught open as possible. I think that means that I go Brian Thomas with this next pick. Yeah, I don't see anything else that makes near as much sense right now. We're near ADP with both of these guys. I take Brian Thomas here. So now I have a second Jag. All of these teams between me have not taken tight ends yet. Evan Ingram would be slightly past ADP. It could be dicey. All right, here's the sweat. This is one of the bigger sweats of this challenge. I'm telling you right now. Evan Ingram. All right. Who else can I get to 5 on? Who else can I get to 5 on? Chicago is tough. Chargers, maybe. Can I get to 5 on Chargers? Ladd, Herbert, Palmer, Edwards, QJ, Kamani Vidal. I think I take Ladd. There is a path here with the Chargers. I think that path is better than Tennessee, right? Hopkins, Pollard, Spears, Levis, Chig, Tyler Boyd. It's close. It's close. But I think I like the Chargers path specifically too because both um Trevor Lawrence and Justin Herbert are cheap. I need cheap quarterbacks on this build. I am punting quarterbacks. I'm trying to build out as many players that help me with my late correlation as possible. Disley is fine for a super late tight end, a third tight end. I still want to draft a good team. The point is, can I make a team that is structurally sound, that has all of the elements of a tournament winning squad while within these confines? So that's why I'm not just saying, oh, I'll just draft 5 players from the same team to end this. I am trying to really think through how do I draft the best possible version of this team? And that Evan Ingram, I don't want to call it a snipe because he went right at ADP. It just stings that I couldn't get him back. Look at this, man. All of I think we go Jordan Love. We have Josh Jacobs. We know that there are a ton of Green Bay players left. Dobbs, Wicks, Lloyd, Musgrave, and 2 tight ends. This might be one of the spots where you would take both tight ends from the same team, both because they're cheap, also because I need to get to 5. So I'm going to go Jordan Love, 3 picks past ADP, correlated with my Josh Jacobs pick. And there are avenues where I could get to 5 Packers with only 3 more. So 3 more Packers to complete the onslaught or 3 more Jags is where I'm at. I'm basically going to try to just keep stacking correlations and inch myself closer to 5 from one team as naturally as I can. Denver is honestly another good team to get to 5, but at this point, I think I'm more or less married to one of these existing stacks and trying to complete it. I think then just structurally, I want another wide receiver. I am going to do I feel like this team could use a guy like Tyler Lockett. I feel like he is a staple of hyper fragile teams. I have a couple rookies in Brian Thomas and Ladd McConkey who could get off to slow starts. Theoretically, and you can get burned saying this, theoretically, there is no one else who should be interested in taking Trevor Lawrence ahead of ADP before my pick. As I said it, I know I'm just mushing myself. And then let's just check where these picks would land. Gabe Davis has an ADP of 131. I would need to take him at 125 to lock up this Lawrence thing. That would give me 4 Jags players and allow me to just put Tank Bigsby in my pocket at the end of the draft. The other thing would be Romeo Dobbs. This is kind of the decision. If Lawrence goes, I think Dobbs is an easy decision here because then I would have Love, Jacobs, Dobbs. Part of me actually thinks Dobbs is the better play. Part of me thinks Dobbs is. Is that crazy? Think about this. If I go Dobbs, I already have 3. I know I need tight ends. I like Wicks. I think I could take both Marshawn Lloyd and Josh Jacobs on the same team. And then I still have Musgrave and Kraft. And I don't even mind Bo Melton as like a galaxy-brained, low-owned, late-round dart. I think this is the play. I think Romeo Dobbs keeps me flexible for the most possible chances at an onslaught at value. And I have a teeny bit of coverage here, right? I'm going Dobbs. I also want to just keep stacking as much wide receiver firepower as I can before it really thins out. Dobbs is typically a guy I'm not drafting because I am drafting running backs in this range. This is another one of the portfolio diversification benefits of pushing outside your comfort zones. When you go hyper fragile, you are now taking wide receivers in a range you don't typically take wide receivers. The real dream is Trevor Lawrence comes back, but I'm flirting with fire here in that the Evan Ingram drafter does have Stroud, but they could still certainly take Lawrence. They also have Tyreek, and Tua's on the board. So I'm going to hope they go Tyreek, or sorry, they go Tua. And if this NY Mafia goes a different direction, I could still get Lawrence here. All right, this drafter goes Dotson. This is my sweat here. Will they go Tua instead of Lawrence? This would be very helpful. They go Gabe Davis. Holy shit. They go Gabe Davis. So that's both good and bad. It's good in that I get Lawrence. It's bad in it takes away one of the key elements of me getting to 5 Jags. But we are going to take Trevor Lawrence here. We are done at quarterback now. Jordan Love and Trevor Lawrence. We got both of them at good values. Love after ADP, Lawrence after ADP. I'm okay with how this broke, especially if I can get Dontavian Wicks at pick 140. I actually think this onslaught prompt was a great one to get right before the schedule came out, because one of the main things I want to do in these pre NFL schedule release drafts is correlate, correlate, correlate. The one variable we know as far as the schedule, it's who's playing on the same team. Once we know the schedule, we can start to correlate week 16, week 17, but we can lean into these onslaughts in these team stacks in the interim. And I do highly recommend checking out the week 16 versus week 17 video. If you're new to this channel, even if you don't necessarily want to get into the weeds on the math of week 16 versus 17, you just don't care. I think there are some actionable takeaways, and they do funnel to this idea of teammate correlation. Dontavian Wicks comes back to me at 140. This is perfect. He's right around ADP, the best available wide receiver on the board, both by my ranks. I'm using the legendary upside ranks and by ADP. This has broke very nicely. We are now up to 4 Green Bay players, which means all I need to do is get one of these tight ends, and I've completed the onslaught at cost. That's the important thing. I did not have to reach on any of these picks to make this happen. I think we are going to land the plane right now with the Luke Musgrave pick and complete the Jordan Love onslaught. I don't think it precludes us from taking Tucker Kraft at the end, but I just completed both challenges by the 13th round. Thank you very much, Luke Musgrave, the 5th Green Bay Packer, 3 bell cow running backs, Bijan Robinson, Kyron Williams, and Josh Jacobs. Thank you very much. This feels like it could be my 4th running back pick. I'm not going to take Tyler Algier. I'm not, holistically opposed to handcucking a backfield, but I want to draft this team as if Bijan Robinson, my 5th overall pick, stays healthy the entire time. I would rather use this final bullet on a guy like Bucky Irving or Ray Davis and saying this guy becomes the guy. I think that's how I want to play it. I just want to make sure there's no other wide receivers I'd prefer more in this range. But to me, the way running back thins out, I don't see a lot of guys that really could be a hammer for a hyper fragile team, right? I want a guy that could crack a starting lineup here. And I think that's Ray Davis or Bucky Irving. I'm going to do Ray Davis. Just a ton of upside on that Buffalo team. And on top of that, I'm getting him at a slight ADP value. He was also one of the risers I featured in my risers video. Make sure you guys check that out if you haven't yet. I think this feels, let's see, Marvin Mims, Luke McCaffrey. I feel like this could be a Marvin Mims squad. He's at the top by ADP, at the top by my rank. Juwan Johnson, actually, the top of my rank here. No other New Orleans. You know what? I am going to do Juwan Johnson at the last second. I'm going to do Juwan Johnson because I don't want to necessarily have to take both Green Bay tight ends. That was more going to be born out of necessity of needing to accomplish the onslaught. I think this might be my Noah Fant selection to be done at tight end, get my second Seattle guy. Then I can not have to deal with Tucker Kraft. And so I do make that click. And I think this is a solid 3 tight end room. All right, Jalen Hyatt. That's just such an easy click for me. Taking a ton of him at the end of drafts. He's a guy that leg up, Sean, a lot of people I respect are just higher on. I think I'll go Rondell Moore. He could be their kind of version of Cordero Patterson this year. I kind of like that. Yeah, so we'll do Rondell Moore as our last selection. And this team is done. We did it. A 2.493. I was initially very bummed out to get another robust RB team. And, maybe I shouldn't be bummed out because I do think it's probably one of the toughest things to do well in this current drafting environment. And the reason I say that is because the ADP board lines up for you to go zero RB or anchor RB. You get your one elite running back in those first 3 rounds, and then you hammer wide receiver and elite tight end. Like the board pushes us to what has become kind of a default accepted optimal construction. Anchor is zero RB, elite tight end, 5 to 6 early wide receivers. Then you hit the running back sweet spot, the zero running back zone in round 7, 8, 9, 10. Bada bing, bada boom, round it out with some rookies. Like that's what most of us are doing. It feels good. Like it feels optimal. But I like this idea of saying, can I build a really smart, well structured, hyper fragile team, knowing most people, most of you watching this show, do not want to start your drafts with Bijan, Kyron, and Josh Jacobs with 3 of your first 4 picks. Tell me in the comments if you do. Tell me if you actually like that. I wish there were more of you who did like to do that. It would make navigating these rooms easier. But I do love that idea of if most people aren't putting Bijan, Kyron, and Josh Jacobs on the same team, can I build a team that I think is really smartly structured with the right player archetypes to make it work and land the plane in a cohesive way? What happens when you go hyper fragile running back? It means you are going to be behind at wide receiver. And so I had to use both as many picks early as I could, which meant not taking elite quarterbacks, not taking elite tight end, and catching up at wide receiver. I was able to get Diggs. I was able to get Christian Kirk. I was able to get Brian Thomas and Lad McConkey. So we can again argue about Brian Thomas and Lad McConkey being viable there, but we were allocating as much draft capital as we could. And then I loaded up on quantity and we used the onslaught prompt to help us do that. Tyler Lockett, Romeo Dobbs, Dontavian Wicks, Jalen Hyatt, Rondell Moore. And because I wasn't able to go elite tight end, because I needed to free up those early slots for wide receivers, it pushed us to a 3 tight end build. I have not done a build like this, but I like this 3 tight end room. Luke Musgrave stacked up with our quarterback, Jordan Love, Jawan Johnson, just one of my favorite kind of in a vacuum tight end picks. I think he's slightly undervalued. And then Noah Fant, another kind of one of my late round favorites. Getting him paired with Tyler Lockett, accomplishes one of the things I've been trying to do in these drafts. How many stacks can we have without the quarterback? We obviously have the Jordan Love onslaught. We have the Trevor Lawrence double stack, but we also have a Seattle stack without the quarterback. We also have an Atlanta stack without the quarterback, and those are the kind of things I really like doing in these drafts. And the onslaught, I will admit, it was a little sweaty. It was a little sweaty there because I'm really trying to think through, can I get 5 players I like without having to, one, take a complete dust ball flyer? Like, I don't want to take Parker Washington. I don't want to take a guy who's liable to be a stone cold zero. And can I also get them at value? I don't want to just take Gabe Davis at pick 90 to be like, yeah, I got the onslaught, got all my 5 Jags. No, I want to get them at good values. I want to piece them around a solid team. I was getting a little nervous, but the Packers, I realize in doing this exercise, are a very onslaught friendly team. This lineup does tell a story through this onslaught. It says Josh Jacobs returns to form. This offense is as good as advertised. Jordan Love continues to take a leap as a quarterback. And the best way to play this offense was through the cheaper passing weapons late. The onslaught came together in an unforced way. Even though the prompt was forced, getting this stack within the confines of this team actually felt pretty natural. And I think what's interesting about this team is outside of the 3 running backs, yes, I would never have started like that in any other draft. However, I would have done a Jordan Love onslaught like this. I don't think that's so crazy. Like, if you think about it this way, the pick I probably don't make ever is Kyron Williams after starting with Bijan. If I start Bijan, which I could do here from the middle round, I'm probably taking Nico or Debo or maybe Devontae Adams, I guess. But I might take Josh Jacobs at 44. I might go, hey, Bijan at 5. Wow, Josh Jacobs fell to 44. And then guess what? All of a sudden, I'm starting to think about my late stacks. I will admit, when I first saw these 2 prompts, 3 workhorse running backs and onslaught team, I was a little nervous. But I think this challenge ended up working out about as well as it could in that it wasn't too restrictive. I didn't have to make suboptimal picks. Like we can go look, there's not a single player I reached for massively. If anything, most of my guys were at value. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Like I said, lots more videos coming. And I should also mention there is a new deposit bonus with Underdog. This is for new users. It's no longer the $100 deposit match. It is up to $250 in bonus cash, but it's a 50% deposit match. So if you put in $500, your account's going to get topped up to $750 because you're getting that 50% deposit match. There's also a special pick'em that they'll drop in your account. So if you're somehow new to Underdog watching all of this, take advantage of that monster 50% deposit match up to $500. So you can get $250 in bonus cash. They'll match 50% of whatever you want to put in. If you just want to put in $100, they'll match 50. But to take full advantage of it, you can deposit $500 and get $250. Appreciate all of you guys. Love doing these videos. Let me know in the comments some other challenges you would like to see on the wheel, and we'll see you next time.